First up, Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders participated in a CNN town hall earlier this week where he addressed many hot-button issues that might play a role in the 2020 election. When asked specifically if he felt convicted sex offenders and terrorists like the Boston Marathon bombers should have their voting rights restored, this is what he had to say.
I think the right to vote is inherent to our democracy. Yes, even for terrible people. Because once you start chipping away and you say, well, that guy committed a terrible crime, not going to let him vote. Or that person did that, not going to let that person vote. You're running down a slippery slope.
Sanders went on to clarify that he feels felons should be able to vote while they're still incarcerated and not just when they get out. When asked about this same issue later on in the town hall, Democratic candidate Pete Buttigieg said he disagreed with Bernie's view, arguing that only when a felon is released back into society should his voting rights be restored. So, ladies, do you agree when your freedom is taken away, your voting rights should be too?
They have strong opinions.
Yeah, well, I think if you've committed a crime that has in any way placed our safety in danger, then you absolutely have to be removed from the rights as a citizen and deal with that punishment in time. And when you have served that time, you can come back and have your rights reinstored. What I mean by that is, think about it. If someone was a convicted rapist and they spent their time that they were supposed to in jail, should they never be allowed to have another relationship? If you got a ticket for jaywalking, should you never be allowed to cross the street? If you were a robber, should you never be allowed to own things? So as long as you've spent the time, just like we no longer cut the hands of thieves, you should also not be deprived of your rights once you've done the punishment.
That's what I agree with. And
you.
I love Bernie Sanders, but I disagree with this. I agree more so with what you're saying, Jeannie, where I do agree that if you've paid the price for the crime, you should then be allowed to move on in your life. But where I do agree with Bernie is it is a slippery slope in the sense of saying, well, you did this, you can't have your rights. You did. I agree. So if I'm honest, I'm unsure. I'd want to continue to debate it.
Well, and see, that's the thing. I think that crimes, it's on a spectrum. You know what I mean? You have the convicted felons, which, I'm sorry, if you committed that crime, you've lost your free right to vote because technically you're not a part of the free society anymore. You've lost your freedom.
While you're inside.
You've lost that right while you are in jail. Once you finish that time and you've rehabilitated yourself and you've done your time, and you've shown people that, you know, you've changed, of course, then you should be able to vote. And I can only speak on, and this is hard, because my grandmother, she was an amazing, amazing woman, you know, because it's about forgiveness. My uncle, her son, was murdered when he was 27 by his wife. And also I have friends who, you know, whose sister-in-law was murdered by, you know, her husband. So when you think of murderers and you think of them being in there and wanting, you know, giving them that right to vote in that particular state of mind, that's hard. I'm not my grandmother in that sense, you know what I mean? I feel like if you've done something that's not right, there's a punishment for it. And I feel like that right taken away to vote is a part of the punishment. As harsh as that sounds, you did a crime.